we launched the first edition of the Global Startup Ecosystem Index back in 2017. And it was launched with the goal of identifying the top countries and top cities in the world to build a startup based on a total score, which we calculate by summing up three subscores, right? The quantity score, the quality score, and the business score. The quantity score is all about how much, how many. We analyze how many ecosystem entities, such as startups, accelerators, investors, etc., are present in a given location. Okay. Quality scores is more about how good, right? How good the ecosystem is doing based on a number of parameters, such as the traction of the startups that have been launched, the amount of funding that the startups have raised, if there are any unicorns or special entities such as exits, the events of startups in the ecosystem, strategic branches of global tech corporations, among other parameters that we consider in our algorithm. And yeah, of course, sorry, the business score, I forgot to mention it, evaluates how good the business infrastructure for startups is in the location. So it's based on data such as the internet quality and cost, the ease of doing business, the level of English of the population, visas for entrepreneurs, etc. Once we have selected and have filtered these startups among SMEs, we have them on our database, and we rank the startups. We score the startups based, of course, also on an in-house algorithm developed by StartupBlink called the SV score. And this score considers the traction of the startups, so mainly traffic, the funding raised by the startups, and the amount of employees the startups have.
Which of these industries are performing the best and which ones are the worst?
I wouldn't say that it's the industries are performing better or worse, but they are, of course, developing in different ways. So on the sub-industry level, we have that AI is, of course, at the amount of funding, number of startups, the size of startups, number of unicorns. AI is the sub-industry that is having the best performance in the last few years, but we're also seeing important growth in other industries, right? Such as food tech, hardware, energy and environment, and so on.
Which regions are currently showing the fastest growth and which ones are falling behind?
The regions that are seeing the best performance, at least this year between 2024 and 2025, have been Central Asia, with an ecosystem growth of around 43%, East Asia with an ecosystem growth of 34%, and the Middle East with an ecosystem growth of around 29%. The US is still the leader, and it still has a gap with the rest, but the gap has been becoming much smaller throughout the years, and we are seeing growth in almost every region. Each region's growth is being fueled by the extraordinary performance of a couple of countries within the region, right? So, for example, we have that Central Asia has seen a massive growth thanks to the performance of countries like Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. And the Middle East is seeing great results also thanks to countries like Saudi Arabia. So what these countries have in common, in our view, is that the government and other stakeholders are making the right choices, are really making the right choices to guarantee that building a startup is as straightforward as possible for the entrepreneurs, at least on the bureaucracy and business infrastructure side. Because, of course, building a startup is something very hard wherever you are, but if the government is keeping it as easy as possible on the bureaucratic side, this will translate into growth for the ecosystem.
As you mentioned, Saudi Arabia is showing over 100% growth. Can you elaborate on what's fueling that momentum?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are seeing in Saudi Arabia with Saudi Arabia's performance is the result, we believe, of a well-planned, coherent strategy to develop the ecosystem, right? So in which the government, with special mention to the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, the government properly collaborates with private stakeholders. So Yeah, this can be seen with the important role that technology plays in the country's Vision 2030, the introduction of the National Technology Development Program in 2020, and many other initiatives by different organizations around the country. I mean, it's besides this, I think it's also worth mentioning that we see that this growth is also, it's not only being reflected at the country level with Saudi Arabia's growth as a country, but we are also seeing extraordinary results at the city level, right? So all Saudi cities has increased in the rankings this year, with Riyadh joining the top 100 league at 72nd. Jeddah has joined the top 300. Dammam has joined the top 350, and Medina is also joining the top 1,000. And below the 1,000 threshold, we are also seeing a few cities, but didn't make it to the top 1,000.